And good morning, everybody. So, being in the top alliance usually means one of two things. Or when you get as powerful as an individual or collectively, you usually have one of two issues once you get that high up. Either A, everybody tries to be friends with you, and anybody who's played games like this knows that you want to try to make friends with the top players for obvious reasons. And then you get the second class of people. People who are kind of close to you in strength, but want to challenge you. And that's kind of what we've got going on here. When you get this high, particularly within this game, you can't leave everything to one map. It's not possible. You have to obtain multiple maps, and each map needs to be used for something in specific. You don't just take a map for the sake of taking it, or gather planets simply for gathering planets. You waste time, you waste resources, and you waste money. I personally have dozens of maps here. All these green ones mean that I own assets on them, or I have something on the map itself. Now I have these divided up. I'd say half of them I use for storage, either whence, or I produce cyno, or ammunition. You cannot play the game without this. You can't gather planets. You can't advance. You cannot do anything without storage. Storage is absolutely vital once you get to a certain point in the game. So we're going to go to a few of the different maps here, and I'll show you what I mean by storage. So I'm not used to this view, so I'm going to change it back here. Okay, the first map that I use for storage in this list here is going to be 37. We own this map in its entirety. HEK, he stores all kind of ammunition. I'm actually going to have to get him to remove this now that I'm showing this online, because it won't take anything for someone to come in here and wipe all this out. But he stores ammunition on here. Rick stores ammunition on here. Me, I don't use it for ammunition storage or production. I use it for cyno production and storage. Let's go ahead and select these and put them all in a single space. I also keep a Rabo in here just so I can run around quickly if for whatever reason it would become necessary. So while those are all gathering in one spot, let's move on to another map. Now, in order to do this, in order to produce free cynos, I have to double check this, but I believe you need a minimum of 38 planets, and all of them have to be maxed out with max refineries. Don't quote me on that. I must double check that first to verify it. I have it all written down, it's just not in front of me. Next map that I use for storage is 80. This used to be one of the most fun maps in the game, at least for us. There used to be another alliance there that we battled. Just to give you an example as to how involved some of this stuff can be. We were at war with an alliance here for over a year, an entire year, gathering up planets. I use this map here for cyno production, and I obviously use it for storage here. I keep a massive Rabos here, and the reason why you don't want to just... The reason why I have everything here is because when you gather, you have to gather military, or you have to purchase military in order to keep ships on a particular map. And when you're constantly at war with another alliance, you need to gather a lot of military. And once you've gathered the map, or once you've obtained the map in its entirety, letting all that military go to waste, for some people it may not bug. For me, it bugs the crap out of me, because I spent all this time, money, and resources building up a map in order so I can take it over and eventually use it for storage. But I let all this military go to waste here. I'm not just going to use it for cyno production. I'm going to use it for heavy ship storage, and that's what I've done here. And if you see here, I still have about what's that, 14,000 military that I could still use here to put storage for Rabos, for Tigs, for Carls, for anything really. But I do use this for Sino production down here on these two particular planets. I'm a creature of habit. If I start doing it in one place, I leave it at that one place. So let's go ahead and add this extra one here. Let's see, the next map I use for storage here. Really storage and actually ammunition production, I use 72. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind when you are gathering planets, the more planets you have on a map, the lesser your production is. Instead of exponentially increasing your production, the more planets you gather, it does increase your production, but at a lower rate. As I said in one of my other videos, this game is set up like a socialist economy, and it really sucks. But that's what they've done here. So on this particular map, that's why I only have a handful of planets. If you see, I've only got 19, 20 bases up here. The reason for that is so I get more production. If you look up here, I need to produce more metal. So I go here and I choose metal production, which costs 600 titanium. That's going to take from my overall of 1200. But I have to do it because I need ammunition. So it all produces. And you only do this when you have all the refineries to their maximum level. Otherwise, you completely waste a 15-hour metal production there because the production won't go beyond the capacity of the planet. And like I said, that's a complete and utter waste. If you look here, I'm at 6 of 17 groups. The reason why my queues didn't finish here was because I ran out of metal. Now, it doesn't take metal from another place automatically. I could transfer metal if I wanted to, but economically, it's not worth it for me to do that. So what I'll do is I'll wait for the production to get over 1 million, because 1 million is what is necessary to build one of the 5 ammunition in the group. And then I'll restart the production from there. And this production will go till 15 hours. And it'll just cease after that. But anyhow, I use 72 for ammunition production. When you get this many maps, you gotta remember and you gotta keep them straight. You gotta remember what you put where and what you use it for. Otherwise, it ends up completely going to waste. When you're in a hotly contested map, when you're in a battle, when you're trying to take a planet with a user that is on and trying to prevent you from taking said planet, you need to have your assets in specific locations close to wormholes so you can get them across to the map that you have your target on as quickly as possible. Let's see, what other map is used for storage here? 102. 102 was actually the second map that I ever went to in this game. We have a few planets from a kicked member that we need to take here to complete this map. But the guy who owns these leaves us alone, so we're not too worried about it here. But I use this for heavy ship storage, as you can clearly see here. And I also use it for Sino production. Sinos, remember, they are exclusively used for fodder, at least when you get later on in the game. We actually need to take them away from the wormhole. We're also going to need to transfer more fuel here. So we'll go to our other menu, choose Transport Resources. Map 88 is one of my fuel production maps, so we'll transfer it to 102. That's all she wrote there. See, our fuel increased by 10 million. But like I said in my other video, keep in mind how many times you do that during the day. It will get incredibly expensive. In my later videos, what I'll do is I'll show you what you can do to mitigate the amount of money that you spend on this game, because I've said it many times and I will never stop saying it. It is obscenely expensive how expensive this game is. See, several of these maps I don't want to make public, just in case an enemy alliance were to see it. But here's another production and storage map, 299, exclusively used for Sinos. See, here I have 33 of 32 bases. So once I hit that 28 base mark, I can produce free Sinos. Once you get to the level that you can do that, it tremendously helps. Now let's move on to, you've seen, I can keep showing you storage maps, but it's all the same. Let's go to an ammunition production map. Let's go to 163. See, here we own this entire map, and again, you can see I only have a handful of planets relative to the quantity of planets that are on here. This is done to get a higher production rate of resources and maximize the amount of ammunition that I can build here for as cheap as possible. 242 is another ammunition production map here. Man, these guys gotta move their stuff. This is not smart. Again, I only have a handful of maps on here relative to the total, so you can produce ammunition. Now, on your home map, you can gather enough planets to produce ammunition for free, but that is only on your home map. I don't think you can do it on any other maps other than your home map. Even if you were to gather up all these planets here, the coding, the game creators, they disallow it. So you may say, why don't you just produce them for free on your home map and transfer them to other maps? Well, you can do that, and sometimes I do that, but it's not always the most economical option because I have to use fuel to transport the ammunition from one map to another, and then subsequently more fuel to transfer them to whatever map I need them on. Now, inevitably, you will need to transport resources from one map to another. Generally speaking, the best way to do this is to have maps where you have under 5 planets on, and use those exclusively for production. Use those exclusively for the production of resources for the purposes of transporting it to other maps. For instance, as I said earlier, I use map 88 for fuel production. So I keep my fuel production high here with only 3 planets. I can do it relatively cheaply. It only costs me 180 titanium. Versus if I were to do it on, say, map 102, if I were to set every planet here that I have to produce, it would cost me an eye-watering 8,760 titanium. And I wouldn't get the highest production quantity, because the more planets you have, the lesser your production is per planet. This would be a map that I transport resources to, but because I use it for production, I never transport metal, I never transport iridium, I only transport fuel, because it's far more economical to produce it on another map and simply to transport it here. But the planets that I inherently have here, they produce enough metal and iridium in order for me to produce Sinos for free. Again, like I have up here. One Sino costs 150,000 metal and 70,000 iridium. As you can see, my production is well over that. I usually have 2 bases going at one time here producing. Ideally, if you can get a map on and you can hold and maintain just one planet on it, that is ideally the best the best map to use simply for production. For instance, that's what I use this for here. I actually use this for Rabo production. What I'll do is when I'll finish here, I can show you here. When I finish production on one Rabo because you maximize your resources that you obtain here because you only have one planet. Let's see if I can send this off to... Actually, we can send this to 102 as long as... all my groups are used up. Let's see if I can dump it. Here we go. We'll get rid of that single Sino up there. And then we'll transport. I'll show you here in a minute. Sorry, I'm bouncing off the map here. Alright, with that Sino now gone, we now have a freed up group. So I'll be able to transport that Rabo over and then restart the production. Oh goodness, what the heck map was I on? This is a problem once you get so many maps you forget. You forget the maps you were on. I'll find it here eventually. Man, this is gonna drive me nuts. As you can see, I have several maps with just a few planets on it, and they're all used exclusively for production. We'll come to Aquin in a few minutes here. This is perhaps one of the most important, at least in this stage of the game, it's one of the most important ships that you can have, simply because the protection of all of your assets now it now relies on Aquin. When you build these in mass, and actually we're the alliance that figured it out, when you build these in mass, they are darn near unstoppable. They are incredibly powerful, and if you're just learning the game and you want to quickly start taking over a map, build these. Build them in mass. Now, they do get expensive. There are times you want to use them and times you don't. You don't want to use them if you are low on resources and you have a finite amount of planets. You want to use these if you have a decent number of planets. You have the ability to produce more resources to create these. And you want to use them exclusively in protection or if you need to attack an opponent. Let's see, we've got a red mess here. What's here? Oh, I'm not going to bother with them. They don't do anything. I'm not going to bother with them. They don't do anything to us, so that's another thing. You try not to specifically make enemies. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. We, being Prometheus, we may be the top alliance, but we don't intentionally go around just trying to piss people off. That's kind of rude. See, this map in particular, I use this for Wentz storage, and I also store Carls here. I have my military completely used up, and I use the rest exclusively for Wentz. The reason a lot of people choose not to store Wentz, the reason why I do is because they are more valuable than Sinos. I used to produce Wentz and send them to all of the maps that I had any kind of storage on. And you see why you can do that. If you choose to, you'll actually be able to garner planets faster using Wentz. The reason why I don't do it anymore is because I have so many planets on so many maps that I'm able to produce Sino and do it rather cheaply. It is far more expensive to produce Wentz. Use fuel to transfer them to another planet on a different map, only to then transfer them again to another map for your target. Like I said, you can do that with anyone. I did that for over a year, but I have decreased my titanium costs by probably 30% by simply producing Sino, making the investment to be able to produce Sino on different maps. The reason why I still do keep Wentz stored on maps is simply because not all planets are going to be simple and easy to take. and I may need to call upon a map with whence to toss into a planet that I am attacking, where you have someone trying to keep you from or prevent you from taking that planet. So on a map that is hotly contested, where you are constantly being attacked and or attacking or trying to take over a planet that has somebody actively on, whence are your best bet, because they take longer to destroy. They take longer to destroy. The guns are going to remain active for a longer period of time. As soon as these guns go silent, all someone has to do is put the shield up, and unless you've got the time and resources to take a planet that is shielded with someone on, it's pointless. Just come back and try it again another day, but you're gonna have to wait 3 days for the shield to come off. Once shields became a thing in this game, and they weren't always that way, but once they became a thing in this game, they completely changed the dynamic. There are some positive aspects to it, but a lot of it is negative. Just to give you an example as to how long it can take to take a planet that is 30 guns and shielded with active members of the enemy alliance who are actively trying to protect that planet. We did this probably over a year ago on map 70. First off, this map used to be completely owned by us. I'm slowly taking it back. It's just not high up on the priority list here. This is my home map. But down here, I forget what planet it was. I think it was this one here. But in any case, one of the enemy alliances had gotten the planet. They had it shielded. It was either the last or the second to last planet that we had to take. Now, not only was the owner of the planet on, but his alliance members were on. So that made it exponentially difficult to take the planet. We had probably, I'd say, a good 7 or 8 of us players on trying to take this planet. It took over 4 hours of constant bombardment to take the planet because it was shielded. We pulled in every scrap of resource that we had, every scrap of ammunition that we had, all of the fodder on all of our maps. We depleted our entire stocks. Now, for those of you who have played this game before and have done that, it doesn't take that much to do it now. This was back when shields first became a thing, and we really didn't know how to attack it properly. It's a little different now. Now we know how to do it. But we used 40 to 45 Carls lined up just to get the job done. Constantly feeding that, we used over 600 groups of ammunition and over 1,000 groups of whence or fodder. Don't get me wrong, it was fun as heck. I mean, that's why you play the game. It's because it's fun. But it was also a huge pain, and it was very, very difficult. So if you can, avoid taking shielded planets at all costs unless you don't have another option. But anyhow, getting back to the different storage maps. There really isn't a whole lot else. That's really all there is as far as storage goes. Just the main thing to keep in mind is, once you expand beyond your home map, you've made the choice that you want to invest in, you want to keep playing this game, you will need to have different maps that do different things. Again, you will have storage maps. An example of a storage map, once again, is, say, 102 for me. I use it for storage and production. Not everybody can do that, but that's what I do here. I have maps that I exclusively use for storage. One map that I do that with is map 331. I use it for the exclusive storage of all heavy production of all heavy ships. I have 59,000 military up here, and I use it for the storage of all my TIGs. See how fast that fuel goes down just moving these. TIGs used to have a much more important role in the game. They really don't anymore. Once we figured out and started using Aquin for really taking out everything and protecting everything, it made these go by the wayside, so they're not nearly as important. Now, they still have specific uses. Not nearly as much as they used to. But if you have them, don't get rid of them. You'll still find uses for them. Again, an example of ammunition storage is 72. You will need multiple of these once you get high enough in order to take planets, unless you have a whole lot of people that can help you out. See, we have over a million here. We can start production back on here. There are 5 individual ammunition pods to one individual ammunition group. Each pod costs about 1 million metal, and about 500,000 iridium. 5 of those complete one. So you need to have at least 5 million metal and 2.5 million iridium to complete one of these. You'll have exclusive production maps of Sino eventually later on. I mean, not everybody does that. Not everybody does that. But an exclusive Sino production that has no storage, for me, is an example of 344. I have just enough plants, so actually I have more bases here than necessary for the production. This used to be a relatively highly contested map before we converted it to simple production. But this particular map here, it's got over 28 planets, which is actually good because I can double up on the production. But as you can see here, it produces over the required on its own without having to increase the production. You see, your goal here is to get enough planets so you don't have to increase the production artificially here because it costs titanium. The cheaper you can do it, the better. Because those who own this game, they don't throw you any bones. They don't help you out at all. I've said this in each one of my videos before, and if Studio Hope ever watches this, if you made specific changes, you could increase your player count tenfold, ultimately increasing your revenue tenfold. You could easily do it by making specific changes. You are fools for running the game the way you do. If you put your players first, the profit increases. Putting the profit first, which is what you guys do, decreases the quantity of players and only keeps the players who can afford to play. That business model never works. Anyhow, moving on. So I use this exclusively just for Sino production. When you use something just for Sino production, you don't have to have a lot of military. You don't have to have a lot of anything on the planet, which increases your titanium load. The more cheaply you can do it, the better. You will have to keep fuel, though. Actually, I'll transfer fuel here. You will need to keep fuel so you can transport your Sino to a different map. So we'll do the same. We'll go back to our fuel production map, which is map 88. And we will transfer it to 344. Oh, that's pretty much it. Oh, we have Aquin production and storage maps as well. Once you get so far in the game, it's inevitable you will need them. Now, you didn't used to, but you do need them because all the top alliances do use them, and we use them not because we necessarily want to. It's a necessity. You really cannot do things now without having massive Aquin stores. It's not ideal, but it is the way it is. A map that I exclusively produce Aquin on is map 338. I have just enough planets so I can produce them at a relatively reduced rate, but not so much that it breaks the bank as far as titanium goes. So here I can produce 20 groups of Aquin via my groups here, and I simply store them on here until I need them. I have a relatively high production count here that allows me to do it, and many of us do this. See, this is Sino production for some of the other members of our alliance here. Actually, we should just take this map over. We only got 2 planets left. And then you have catch-all maps where it's not specifically used for one thing. You were there for one reason or another. Either you needed to help your alliance, you needed to go after another alliance, you wanted to battle somebody. One of those such maps for me is, I believe it was 368. Yep, this is it here. It's not used for any one thing. It has a relatively decent group count. It's got 26,000 military. So I'll keep some heavy ships here, but most importantly, at least for me, I use this for Aquin storage. I don't produce it here. It's too expensive to produce it here. I have too many planets. But I do use it for storage, and actually, I used about half of them. I think it was the other day for whatever reason. I don't even remember what it was for, but I do need to transfer them back. So, actually, we'll just do that now. Why not? What I'll do here is I'll go to map 338. I will gather up all of the Aquin that I have and transport them to the nearest wormhole. Or send them, rather, to the nearest wormhole. No, not the nearest. We're going to go to, we're going to this wormhole down here. Let's make sure that it is a safe transfer. Yep. So we can transport here without hitting an enemy planet. So let's go ahead and wait for them to transport down. They only have a speed value of 2, so they do take a little bit longer. That's one of the huge downsides. Everything takes forever to transfer and to travel. So while the other portion is traveling up here, we'll just start sending these over. Notice that you do need to keep a good fuel stock to make sure you can transfer these. If you see the screen going gray again, it's because I'm also doing stuff outside of the game as well. I do own a business, and I'm doing that as well. Now we should be getting down to the wire here. And you know what? We can go ahead and restart the production here. These dudes take a good amount of time to produce. Each one takes 10 minutes to produce, so that's another reason why it's good to have several maps of it. You can quick build them, but it gets obscenely expensive. Alright, so now that we've started the production here, we can, kind of let it go and let it be. Let's see if we can keep transferring these over. Should be getting about done here. Hitting the group cap. Once you do hit the group cap, it'll shoot you over a message that says, you can't send any more over. Come on. There you go. See? Group limitation. You can't send any more over. So, just move these back onto a friendly planet or your own. Now you need to move over to the map to which you store it on. Now, see how these are out in the middle? I don't want to leave these out in the middle because I can't afford to let anybody just come up and destroy them. These are very expensive to produce, and subsequently they are also very important. Later on in another video, I'll go into the capabilities of the different ships and the distances that you can have shooting other ships without the enemy ship shooting you. Just as an example, these Aquin, they have a distance of 11. That W range here, that stands for weapons range. It has a weapons range of 11. Now you have certain ones with a weapons range of 12, such as your TIG. That's another thing that's actually one of what I mostly use TIGs for now. They destroy other ships very quickly, and when you need to go just right outside of the weapons distance of an enemy ship, you can park this there and sit back, pop some popcorn, and it'll destroy all the enemy ships that you're trying to get to. And not a single shot will be fired on the TIG. Now, you need to be very careful how you do this, and then, like I said in a later video, I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you how to do it and to do it carefully. So, now that these are all safe, I'm actually going to put them on one of my planets. Our group count is up. We have completed storage on this map now. Later on, we'll get into some big heavy battles and things like that. It'll make this much more interesting, but right now I'm just trying to get the tutorials out there. Well, that's quite honestly just about all there is on different storage techniques, different storage maps. I'm sure there's other things that I'm not thinking of right now, but what I just showed you here is predominantly what is used throughout the game, not just by me, but other large players. This is how we do it. There's really no other way to do it either. You have to have storage, otherwise you will not get anywhere in any of the maps. Especially if you're by yourself. This game is incredibly boring when you're by yourself. It's always best to be in a group, be in an alliance. It makes the game much, much more fun. And let's take a quick browse around the other maps here and make sure no one is getting attacked. We don't have to defend anybody. Ammunition production here. We could destroy these, but there's really no point. I use this for ammunition production as well. I produce a lot of ammo here. It's much, much cheaper to do it. I've only got a handful of planets. I've got 10 bases here. Man, that's a lot of Rabos. That's Kenny. Kenny is our Carl and Rabo king. That is all that dude makes. This used to be a very, very highly contested map, but no, not anymore. We came up with a non-aggressive. Actually, no, someone was here. Someone tried to send stuff in here. Not sure who. We're supposed to have a non-aggression pact with the other individuals that are on this map. Oh well. Anyhow, that about wraps things up for storage. If anything comes up or any battles happen, at least large ones, I'll try to get them recorded here, but for now there really hasn't been any. We're solidifying our position in older maps right now. What we will be doing very soon here is we're going to be going after existing maps and completing them, but going against the other top alliance. This is the number 2 alliance that we're going to be going up against. The reason why they're in the number 2 spot is because they cheat. They cheat more than any other group in the game. They have hundreds of external accounts that they use to get ahead in the game. They all have access to each other's accounts. So it's very, very difficult to hit them. And once you do manage to get a planet, everybody knows. So everybody converges on you. But we're going to be starting that here soon. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be a lot of, shall we say, interesting videos that will come about because of that. Alright, thank you for sticking around. If you have any questions about anything, just leave it down in the comments and I will make a video about it for you. It doesn't matter what it is. If you want to learn how to do it, I will show you. It's not too often that you get an experienced player that's willing to show you the ropes, to show you everything about a particular game. So, anyhow, if you enjoyed this, if you got anything from it, please like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, any questions, comments, leave them down in the comments and I will address them as soon as I see it. Thank you, my friends, and take care.